Hello friends, welcome to today's reflection and meditation. So one of the powerful parts of our personal development is the dismantling of all we know. The dismantling of even the ways we have built-in assumptions we didn't even know we had. I remember when I was first on ministry staff at a church, brand new out of seminary. It was 2004 at that time. And I was really blessed in that I was given a blank canvas and I could bring people in and form teams. And I had so many people involved in ministry and realizing their gifts. And I was also given the opportunity to lead, to be a true minister, in addition to teaching. And I developed a course called The Myth of Genesis. And my church community, which was about 3,000 strong, generally I would say the pulse was that without realizing it, there was a bit of a fundamental relationship with the Bible. Not explicitly, where it was much more Bible-based, but almost like an implicit way that much of the Bible was related to as though it were literal. And with that, then, there was a lot of curiosity about this course, The Myth of Genesis. It was 3 months long. It was really something. And it began by me very slowly destroying any of the traditional ground you could stand on in relation to the text. And I used historical critical analysis and theological study and archaeological studies and anything that's tangible enough that it would give reason to say, oh, that can't quite be literal, can it? And it was an interesting process because I was prepared for this, that many went through a real personal upheaval. What can I rely upon were some of the questions that came forward. A sense of light anxiety about having to have certain beliefs destroyed and not having a belief to replace. And that can probably be the most uncomfortable part, when something that we've held as true, again, implicitly or explicitly with assumptions or not, when it's destroyed and it's not immediately replaced with something we can sink our teeth into or hold on to or even articulate. And that can be a very uncomfortable moment. Now, fortunately, my plan with creating the course was to provide an opportunity for everyone to come to the experience of the essence of what was being pointed to and witnessed to through the text of Genesis. And as a group, we came out the other side, and this was a massive group because the parish was so big and people were so eager to support me and eager for the course. We came through the other side, what? With reinforced sense of faith. That is the powerful role that dismantling our truths has. Can you stay in the liminal space if you're not given the replacement in the way you know it immediately? And our meditation practice, I'm going to invite you to name a place you may be within those truths, known and unknown right now. But in order to set us up for the meditation practice, I want to talk about the word Yahweh. It's a great word, isn't it? Yahweh. And it is so prevalent in the cultures, especially in many, many faith traditions. You've got the monotheistic traditions of Islam and Judaism and Christianity, and you've got very variable other traditions that Yahweh is still a part of the parlance that's used when pointing to God. But when did that word even come about? And if we're going to ask that question, are we prepared to have any assumptions we have around Yahweh be destroyed? I am going to share with you a map. All right. So here's a map of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. All right, so take a look at this map. Just take a good look at it first. All right, so you can see that this region is not that massive, but there is so much that takes place in the development of various religions and experiences of the divine that happen in a concentrated way here. Now I'm going to hold this up as I share with you a few simple facts. The origins of the word of Yahweh as it's being used for God or creator source, there is no common consensus at all. There's disputes, there's very good arguments, there's very good reasons for one postulation versus another postulation, but ultimately, no one postulation wins out as pulling together all the variables. So you've got, though, that the word does have history in this area. And it has history in the entire area. Now, the most plausible record of Yahweh, and again, this is disputable, goes back very many years ago, goes back to Egypt during the time of Amenhotep III, who's the 9th pharaoh of Egypt. And that goes back to, let me pull it up because I want to make sure that I get the dates right on that. Yeah, about 4000 BC, or I'm sorry, 2000 BC. That's the earliest time that you see it in record. And the existence of Yahweh as part of an understanding of God's source can be traced in worship most strongly in the Levantine. So see where the Levant is. It's hard not doing a screen share. See where the Levant is here. You can see it in the Fertile Crescent right over there in the Fertile Crescent. Levantine worship, and it exists pretty strongly in the late Bronze Age, and that's the 15 to 1200s. The Amorites are strong in that area, and you can trace the use of the word Yahweh, which means bring to life. Bring to life. There's even disputes as to what the word even means or what it's pointing to. So you get these loose historical references in Egypt as early as 2000 BC, again in records, and they think it existed even as early as 5000 BC in the Aramaic language. But then the most consistent use of the word Yahweh in some form exists in the Amorite traditions from ancient Levantine worship, and again, most probably the 15 to the 1200s BC. Now, during these times, Yahweh is actually named as head of a pantheon, along with El, Asherah, and Baal. And Yahweh refers to an aspect of God that is highly connected to weather and war. Isn't that fascinating? So even the instigation of Yahweh coming about doesn't come about immediately as a monotheistic reference. Now, archaeology and studies believe that Abraham, who's considered obviously the father of these monotheistic religions, existed in the 1800s in Mesopotamia. And so if you look at the map again, you see Mesopotamia right in the heart of the Fertile Crescent. And there's record that there was some major drought that happened around that time. And when that experience of God happened for Abraham, he was told to move into the Canaanite region in Levant. So it would make sense, right, that Abraham, living in the 1800s BC, begins to use a name that he's going to have a following. So the Israelites become an ethnic division, and they are simply a subset of Canaanites. They're still considered Canaanites. They're not considered separate from Canaanites, but it's almost like a subset. Like if you had a family tree, and in that family tree you have the Canaanites would be the mom and dad, and then you've got Israelites, that's one of the children that's happening with their own family subset, and maybe they have their own culture and their cultural practices that come into existence. And with this, however, when you look at the historical critical analysis of what happened with Abraham, it's a little bit more accurate to say that his experience of God wasn't Yahweh, it was actually El, which was another part of the pantheon. Now that's simply looking at it as scholars looking back. But with all this variant of the traces of Yahweh, the only thing that's consistent is that there's some aspect of this Yahweh that has to do with a creator source, that the name has something to do with bringing into existence as life, and that exists in this region in general. Now, the move towards a real monotheism that would conflate El and Asherah as the consort of El and Baal, that would conflate those as aspects of the one God, doesn't really happen until the 900s, in the time of Elijah, and then Hosea in the 800s BC. So pantheism is largely seen as the way the cultures looked at things, even in the time of Abraham. So when we can look at that, we can say, okay, well, Abraham had this call that he was going to have a multitude of followers that were going to number the stars, and he was meant to move to this land where he was moving away from drought and moving into where there was less drought or no drought at all, that he would have followers. There's nothing that leads us for sure to say that Abraham identified that as a move to a monotheistic God source. It doesn't say that he didn't, but there's nothing that says that he did. It just says that he will have a multitude of followers. That could have meant everything. That could have meant thousands of children, a bloodline. It could have meant that he would start a culture that had a certain kingdom to it. Now, in this entire area, because we're talking about the Bronze Age, bronze is just coming into existence. So the lifestyle in that part of the human species, other than Egypt, and I'm going to refer back to that in a minute, was largely nomadic. Hence why you get the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And the nomadic lifestyle was a lifestyle that was the way they existed. So we don't even know if Abraham even had these visions of not being a nomad anymore. Would he have known any different? We have no idea. It's all postulation. How would he have framed that in his mind? What we do get from this era is that we get over in the area where Egypt is, so we get the Sahara in these Egyptian areas here, and we think it's Upper Arabia where Amenhotep lived and had kingdoms. That's where you really get organized culture most strongly, is the Egyptian culture. You get the pharaohs, you get the systems of hierarchy and building and education and things like that are much more of like a lineage-based passing it on from generation to generation. But other than that, you get a highly nomadic lifestyle that lived where the farming was. It was agriculture driven, that lived where the water was, which would make sense. And there would be easily a coexistence of a pantheon of creator sources, because they would be aspects. Now, even coexisting in that time, because Yahwism, which they believed that Abraham was a Yahwist, Yahwism sometimes had monotheistic expressions, because we have a hymn of Atem, which is an Old Testament parallel existing, predating Abraham, which was monotheistic, coexisting along with the pantheon. There weren't, as far as we can see, there weren't wars over who you believed in, as far as we can see. There were wars over land and wars over power that came about, especially when weapons came into existence, when metals were identified and could be produced, but less driven. It was up into Elijah that we get more of the returning to the one God text that you see in the writings in the Hebrew texts referring to Elijah. And again, that gets even more intimately with Hosea. But there's something that's a little bit implicit with Elijah, because it looks like David and Saul existed before Elijah. And if they did, they would have begun to organize texts. And remember, the Israelites wanted a king. And Saul was a king and ruthless, and David was seen as more kind-hearted. You get a centralization beginning to happen. Now, why would I tell you this? Why does this matter? My hope is that it softens any unknown assumptions you might have about the use of the word God, the ideas of covenantal personal relationship, and the tracings that can be considered objective or subjective when it comes to humanity's understanding of creator source. Now, to shake that up even a little bit more for you today, you're getting a nice theology lesson, is that, there are two times of destruction that take place, right? We get the Babylonian exile, and so, look at this, my maps keep changing. You get the Babylonian exile, so Babylon is here, right? You get the temple destroyed, the Babylonian exile, so the Israelites are exiled from their temple in 572, and it brings the end to the area of the first temple. And then there is a shift in the theology of moving from the external to the internal sense of the experience of God. You can see that in the writings. And then, even with the rebuild, you get the Second Temple period with 515 BC going all the way to 70 CE, 70 post Christ. And then when Rome destroys the temple, all true existence of the way the word Yahweh was pronounced disappear. So with the destruction in 70 AD CE, all real known pronunciations of that word cease to exist. And what had developed up until that time is, you probably are aware, that Tetragrammaton. So the name Yahweh became very much a ritualistic, where they got rid of the vowels so that you just had the syllables, as a way of avoiding saying the holy name. And even as I think it's a little of an aberration, but as an extrapolation of do not take the Lord's name in vain from the Ten Commandments, you get even a period of time where even the name Yahweh is only said once a year on the Day of Atonement by the high priest. So even the use of the word goes in and out of parlance. And after 70, the real knowing how to pronounce the word, they can find no traces of it. So we're only piecing together. And then what gives chance with that destruction? A new iteration, right? A new iteration. That is delightful, right? it takes away ground we might stand on when we think of having solid lineage. Any kind of lineage. I mean, I don't identify as any lineage anymore, but even if I were to look at my energy signature as being Judaic Christian influenced, it does away with how I might even trace connection to Abraham, right? I mean, Abraham was Mesopotamian. He would have been a person that was open to the pantheon of gods. He moved for the sake of a drought. And he existed almost 1,000 years before a move to monotheism was really strongly identified in the culture. I hope you find that as fascinating as I do. And if not, you can bear with my geekiness. All right. Well, there's one thing that is very true, and that is that the word Yahweh sounds like a breath, doesn't it? Yahweh, Yahweh. It's breathy. The word is breathy. So we're going to, and we've done this meditation once before, we're going to let our meditation be the word Yahweh. We're going to draw upon that lovely Amorite etymology that Yahweh, Y-A-H-W-I, a bringer into existence, that we're going to breathe Yahweh into ourselves, into our minds, into our hearts, and into our bodies. We're going to allow that breath through Yahweh to take us to a deep place, whatever that deep place is for you. All right, so I'm going to use my mala. You can use your rosary if you want. It's just, each beat is going to be one full recitation of Yahweh. And if you're up for it, first bring the intention of something that's been destroyed in your beliefs, but maybe isn't replaced by anything that you know. Bring the intention that new breath comes into that. And second, maybe let the word Yahweh inspire you in a new way. Yes. All right. So I invite you to close your eyes. And bringing your focus to either intention or both. First, to a belief that has been destroyed but not replaced clearly yet. Identify what this is. Or second, open yourself that the utterance of Yahweh may inspire you in a new way. Now bring the focus to the breath. And we're going to be inhaling the Yah and exhaling the Weh. Simply do it however it works for you, and really allow the body, mind, and heart to drop into the repetition of this word that's so rich in our consciousness. Inviting in a breath and exhaling. And we begin. Yahweh. One more. Notice the shifting in your own body, mind, and heart, and offer presence to whatever moves within you. And inviting in a breath and exhaling. Beginning. Yahweh. 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 And relax, bringing presence to the effect of the word within your being. And when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes. And open your eyes. Have a great day.